much.
Welcome to Living Low Sodium with Mary Shep. Join Mary as she tickles your taste buds with her salty wit and her exceptional palate, all whilst guiding us through the land of living low sodium. Today, what is healthy? Of course, welcome back to the studio after a little bit of time away. Mary.
Yeah. Little bit of time is the truth, as many of you know. Sadly, we mourn the loss of my co-host. At the same time, we are happy at the fact that I myself survived COVID. So it's kind of a mixed bag of emotions here in the studio and going forward. But as they say, the show must go on and life must go on. So hate to be cliche, and it's not that we will ever forget Pete or
right.
the love that he brought to our hearts. But unfortunately, he is no longer with us. So selfishly, I can cry off of that after the fact. But we kind of move on and move forward. And
so like a good milk recently expired, we could say, right?
Oh, I love it. And I can guarantee you he is laughing with all of our comments. So if you don't like any of them, you can stick it because we knew him better than you did.
That's right.
So that's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about, what is healthy. Because the word health refers to the state of complete emotional and physical well-being. So the optimal state of health and what people think is healthy is what confuses me. Like, you work out, so you must be healthy. Or you take vitamins, you must be healthy. You eat salads, you must be healthy. And what do you think of when you judge someone about their health? Like, do you think about mental health, financial health, spiritual health, a combined overall physical well-being, or simply because you see him jogging around your neighborhood that, man, I wish I was as healthy as he is? Maybe his 0% body fat isn't as healthy as you think it is.
Well, that's it too, right? Is here in America anyway. Well, let's go all around the world. Is health is what you look like, right? That's what we say. Oh man, you were healthy. You look good, or maybe you're muscly.
Right.
You're healthy.
Right.
And we have no idea.
And the one thing that I think is funny is so many people don't consider mental health in the phrase or thought process of judging you or yourself or someone else as being healthy. And your mental health has so much more to do with your overall health than I think people even can fathom. Something that's funny to me is when I get criticism for trying to take the most natural approach possible. We've had Dr. Ron Masakawa, who is a chiropractic acupuncturist, and he has been my saving grace. People say, oh, well, it's placebo effect. So here's my question to you. If I give you a sugar pill and the tumor the size of a golf ball in your throat goes away, and then I tell you, I gave you sugar and it was placebo in that trial, but you cured yourself. Nobody has the question of, well, was that just the power of my own brain convincing myself and my body down to a cellular nature that I'm going to get better?
Right.
So even if it is placebo effect, and that placebo is convincing my body to do what it can do naturally and not stressing about it, that mental stability that we don't look into, we don't think of, we don't even consider, meditation,
right?
Things like that. People just don't group all of that in with your health. So when you see the questions or the news articles raised about increasing. Have you seen lately with the police departments where they're bringing social workers with them?
Yeah.
That I think is absolutely outstanding.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Not to dig at police officers. They have to deal with enough. They're not trained psychologists or psychiatrists or even therapists that have had experience with domestic abuse or violence or anything. Some of the things, I couldn't even imagine the things that they walk into and have to figure it out. Like, that's just astounding to me. So the fact that we barely put an importance on our actual health, let alone our mental health.
But as from kids, Mary, in school, health is the food groups and
right. Here's the food pyramid
and
eat some fruits. Right. And research, so even just like exercise, research shows that the benefits of exercise, even mild exercise, reduces anxiety and depression. And that's what's funny when people say how much they hate exercise. I would be YouTube famous, TikTok famous, if I videotaped me exercising. It's like you just told a 4-year-old to make their bed before they can have Oreos. Oh my God. I literally will melt out of the bed and be like, oh my God. And I am vocal about it. I swear, I curse, I scream. I despise it. I will never have a runner's high. I will never like exercising. Yeah. I do it because I have to, because of the issues that I have. And even then, it is the minimal that I need. And I try to find things that I can count as exercise. Doing events, walking around, you do a mixer with a chamber or something like that, and you're walking around the room for an hour talking to people. Yeah. That's movement. Exercise doesn't have to be dumbbells and exercise equipment and running 50 miles. So we recently at my work, they changed our insurance. And we had this conversation and I laughed because everybody's talking about how the insurance changes and this changes and that changes. And I was like, everybody's all terrified of getting sick, especially with COVID in the world right now.
Scared, yeah.
Terrified because the whole world is telling you that, COVID's going to kill you. Long-term effects, all this other stuff, blah, 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 which obviously in our own personal circumstances, both true and not true at the same time. Kent and I both survived COVID with what we would consider minimal symptoms, and Pete went very, very quickly with very, very severe symptoms. But that being said, when you pay for insurance and you complain that you pay $500 a month for insurance, I get thousands of dollars worth of blood work done every spring. I get a full physical and I get all the blood work. My blood work is a little bit more extensive than the average physical, but it's still considered preventative maintenance. So it's 100% covered. All of your preventative care, and there's a difference between preventative and diagnostic. So you need to talk to your insurance company, whatever, but preventative care in most instances of Medicare and regular insurance, doesn't matter what insurance you have, is predominantly covered. So when you get your annual physicals, mammograms, colonoscopies, and I'm sorry, I know that colonoscopies get a horrible rep. I need to get them every 3 years because of my issues. I need to get a scope every few years because of my issues. Trust me, they knock you out. You count to 3 if you're lucky. And you wake up and you have to sit there. And the most horrible part of an entire colonoscopy, including the prep, if you actually follow the instructions, is having to fart in front of a nurse afterwards. Because you can't leave until you pass gas so that they know that everything is going. They don't need to see you go to the bathroom because there's nothing in there because you've been crapping your brains out for 2 days. But if you follow the diet, even that part's not that bad. But the preventative nature and the fact that it's 100% covered, and the amount of people that I personally know that my stepmother has had issues with polyps and colon cancer and stuff in her family, something that is so easily prevented. And I don't know, you're going to stick something up my ass. Come on. You're not there. You don't remember it. And I can guarantee you that in your lifetime, you've probably done something more disgusting.
That's it.
So something as simple as having a physical for a doctor to look at you and say, you look good, you don't have any crazy moles growing tumors and, weird alien creatures out of you, and your cholesterol is okay, your vitamins are okay, your minerals are okay. The amount of diseases that you can prevent from basic, just knowing your basic nutrient levels is astounding.
Yeah. Sue says, and good morning, Sue. Thanks for joining in. Jim, good morning. Pamela as well. And Ted, always good to see you. Said, I thought this was going to be tips about low sodium living.
Well, I've got 2.5 years of shows worth of tips on low sodium living. And we do have I have a couple tips here a little bit. I brought Kent some soup.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. I just realized I'm probably going to call you Pete about 1,000 times
if
until
you do,
June.
I'll take that as an honor.
Right? And he'll be laughing at both of us.
Right.
So the part of the reason why you want a low sodium tip. So with advanced liver disease, I am on a low sodium diet.
Yeah.
With my transverse myelitis, which is very much like MS, for those of you that don't know, I have a lesion on my spine between T7 and T6, or T6, T7, whichever way you want to say it. So I'm on an anti-inflammatory diet as well, which pretty much means I don't add salt to my food and I eat real food. And now that I'm at a stable point in my life, I had a burger the other day out at a restaurant and I was fine. My sodium levels in my blood work are always low.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that I need to eat more salt. The way that your body processes nutrients and electrolytes and vitamins and proteins and antioxidants and amino acids is completely different than just saying my protein is low, I need to eat more protein. Yes, there's a certain amount of that to that equation.
Yeah.
But for me, living a low sodium lifestyle and having my my blood sodium, which is not salt is sodium chloride, is two totally different things. So there's nothing I can necessarily do to change that. The health of my liver and the health of my organs and the balance of my nutrition is what determines those factors.
Sure.
So without doing that blood work to find out, and you're just dumping pills down your throat to say, well, I'm going to take a multivitamin. What if your kidneys don't process vitamin A the way they should, and you like broccoli and potatoes and you get more vitamin A than you should, and now you're taking a multivitamin, and now you don't know until you're in your 60s that your kidneys are shutting down.
Right.
So, where's the knowledge when you just blindly say, I'm going to take some gummies because they got vitamins in them and
right,
that's going to do me right. And the next thing you know, you got kidney stones and you can't figure out why.
Well, yeah. And the part of living low sodium and being healthy isn't just I quit eating salt.
Right.
Right. Or I reduced it in my, my diet. And that's the body as a whole. And I like what you said a little bit earlier, about that the mental health is if we have a lot of anxiety or we're stressed, even if we are eating low sodium, that can create different chemicals in the body that stresses out other organs. It
does. In the overall balance in the way that your body, it's astounding. And the things that they're learning on a daily basis about how your body processes these things.
Yeah.
I just read an article about how your body uses the fat stores in your bone marrow to fight infection. It doesn't mean that if you're fatter, you're going to fight infection better.
Right.
You need that balance of you're not too skinny, you're not too fat, but having a couple extra pounds is the way you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be a trim and proper, maybe in your 20s, but it's not necessarily the case. So by knowing how your blood work is and how your body is handling things, I mean, especially when your insurance pays for it. And it's been so hard for me to understand Now, and I was the same.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't necessarily take advantage of my insurance until I had to. But the second that I knew that all of those things were covered, because I remember after I went to the doctor and literally $30,000 worth of blood work later, and there's no bill. I paid $23 for my vitamin D tablets. That was it. So technically, I'm overweight. So when you talk about what is healthy, if you look at my height and my BMI, I am technically overweight. So if you ask if I am healthy, in some aspects, I am. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I eat better than most anybody you're going to talk to.
Yeah.
And as all of my doctors and specialists, of which I have many, have said, I am very boring on paper. Even 2 weeks ago when I had COVID, and my doctor, my doctor was out of town, so I had the nurse practitioner. And you can see she's looking for information, and she's scrolling through pages and pages and pages and pages of information. And she says, you had a lot of work done, but you are really boring on paper. But if you looked at it and said, what your weight, your height, your BMI, I'm overweight. I'm on the very low end of it, but I'm overweight. And the funny thing is I can feel it. And I can feel how it affects because of how sensitive I am and because of the nature of my diet and how healthy in some ways I am because of my liver and because I don't want to be on medication and because I strive for that.
Yeah.
The fat stores that are just under my sternum over my diaphragm is the smallest little ping pong ball size of packet of fat, but it pushes on my hiatal hernia and causes problems. The inflammation in my body, there's so many things that it affects, me being a whopping 10 pounds overweight. And even if I lose that 10 pounds, I'm still going to have a fat pouch on my belly and all these other things.
According to the chart that we have up on screen right now, I'm not overweight at all for a guy who's 7'6".
Right.
However, I'm 5'10".
Right. And and it's not, we've discussed this before, where it's not just about your BMI.
Right.
If you look at a chart like that and it says you're overweight. Now, when you start getting into the obese realms and you're 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, you're getting up in the 70, 80 pounds overweight. And so many times people are like, well, they're not that bad. It's all in their gut. It affects your hormones. It affects your body. Visceral fat versus subcutaneous fat. All of these things affect these things. So when you talk living low sodium, from the beginning when I started this show, which still can't believe it's been as long as it's been, that we said, why not? It sounds fun for a few weeks. It is a lifestyle. It's not just low sodium. It's the balance. And that's why I talk about so many different aspects of it, because of the fact that it's not just about the salt. And when I got sent home from the hospital with a very advanced degree of liver failure, and was told that, oh, hey, Gwen, that I'm going to have to probably have a liver transplant within the next year. And that was the life that I was expecting, to be where I'm at now simply through food. And all they did was hand me a double-sided piece of paper that said what sodium is, how much sodium's in a teaspoon, and a chicken recipe, which essentially was grilled chicken with Mrs. Dash on the other side. Not even saying that you need to watch for the fact that chicken a lot of times is brined and loaded with sodium, so you got to be careful. I learned that it was truly about an entire lifestyle. And once I got my blood work back in the very beginning, I needed to be on supplements, because I could not physically eat enough potassium and magnesium and sodium and iron and all of the things that I needed, that I had to be on these medications. But as my organs got stronger and I got healthier and more balanced, now I have to eat more potassium than most people because it helps eliminate my sodium.
Yeah. But let's stop there and talk about that, the blood, blood work, because that also can be something that people hang their hat on, right?
Oh God, yes.
Hey, my cholesterol, as a guy in his 50s, right? Hey, my cholesterol is good. My blood levels are good.
Right.
My heart's strong. I'm healthy.
Right.
Are you? Are
Right.
you? You know?
Exactly.
And, you know, and I remember several times, you know, listening to the show that Pete would say that too. Hey, my favorite thing to do is sit.
Right.
But the doctors can't believe how good all my blood work is.
Right. And that's part of why I push so hard to get people to realize that it is a balanced lifestyle.
Right.
Not just salt, not just cholesterol, not just, you know, do you have enough vitamin C in your blood work? So we were talking about this here before the show about movement.
Yeah.
And there was a study I read a long, long time ago, and I wish I could remember the term he used. We discussed it on a previous show. There is a culture somewhere on the other side of the globe, a tribal culture, and they are a very sedentary life. They sit. If you added it all up, they sit and do nothing like cats.
Yeah.
Way more than we do as a society. But they collectively are way healthier, less cancer, less diabetes, less tooth problems, migraines, heart attacks, all of these things, because they have consistent movement. They sit for 5 minutes and they get up and stoke a fire. They sit and they get up and get a kid. They sit and they go get another kid, and they sit and then they get up, and they're constantly all day long up and down. But collectively, they are much more sedentary and lazy, as it were, than we are. But they're healthier because of that constant movement. And one of the things, so I actually physically showed Kent what it looked like. My husband was dying laughing because while I had COVID, I would get up every hour and like the speed walker, hyper extended, spin your ribs. And I would do laps around my dining room table until I was out of breath, grab my ice water and go sit down and go, holy crap, I think I overdid it. I'm going to die. We're going to the ER. And then I was good. And then I would hack my lungs out for 10 minutes. But the nature in which your body collectively works as a whole unit of multiple organisms and systems depends on that. It depends on that balance. It depends on that movement. So just because your cholesterol is good and you're not looking at your micronutrients and saying, I get everything from vitamins because I want to eat cheeseburgers every day, versus the balanced nature and how it affects our body to eat an apple that is balanced fiber and sugar and glucose, fructose, and all of these things, the things that we don't even know about because we've only been studying how food affects the body for the last 100 years, combined with how our muscles react and what they do simply by getting up and being movement of any kind. Walk to your fridge and back 5 times every hour, and the oxygen that it pumps through your muscles, your lymph nodes, your filtration system, and everything that makes it do, just in that little itty bitty bit of movement. So you don't need to go up and get and run on elliptical for 2 hours. Just get off your ass once an hour.
That's it.
You know,
so it's interesting. And Ted says, you know, my salt levels tend to be low and my proteins tend to be low too. So my diet can't be full of junk.
Yep.
And now they have me on a gigantic amount of vitamin D. It's amazing the balancing act a person has to do to stay healthy.
Correct.
Just to your point. That's why I wanted to bring that up. Just recently, about a month or so ago, a good friend of ours, Dawn Bremer, and if you tune in on Tuesday nights to Anything Goes with Bremer and Jones, she and I started to hold each other accountable for being healthier.
It's fantastic.
Not weight loss, not just.
Did you go to the gym today? Like, no.
Right.
No.
Just being healthier.
Yep.
So we share, you know, hey, I just had a salad instead of, you know, the gas station roll a burrito, you know.
Burrito.
But then we also are working with Mike McKay, who's a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. And it's just interesting. I used to go to the gym and throw weights around like I was going to be Mr. Atlas, right? And it was important for me to get big and look like a, you know, the Incredible Hulk, right? And basically the heaviest weight that we're using is like 20 pounds, but it's all body weight workout and whatnot. Now, here's the interesting thing, and this is why I bring that up on the balancing act is I get with him twice weekly. If I miss a day, all of a sudden I'm like, I feel like peanut butter. It's like,
oh yeah,
you know, and it's just interesting that balancing act, you know. Now, on the days I'm not with him, I'm trying to do some stretching or moving,
sure.
just basic moving. To your point, but it's funny how your mind and your body crave then that just movement.
It's the same is said for how many people don't know they're thirsty,
Right?
because they don't drink water.
Your lips will tell you you're thirsty.
Right. So when you're sick, especially when you think that you've drank enough water, drink more.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally drink more. Your kidneys and your systems will flush out infections 10 times faster. And you also need, like, I lost my appetite for about a week.
Yeah.
So I started taking zinc because I wasn't eating protein. But I still forced myself every single morning to drink a little probiotic yogurt shake and eat a piece of fruit. And then at lunch, same thing. I would eat at least a couple pieces of fruit. And at dinner, it didn't matter what it was. Yep. I ate something, because you need that energy. Like we were talking a second ago about fat stores.
Yep.
You need that energy for health. And it's funny because as somebody who doesn't add salt to things and lives low sodium, I have a husband. He eats whatever he wants to eat. He predominantly eats what I eat because it's just easier and he likes my cooking. But I get those individual packs from Sam's Club, the big giant pack of peanuts.
Oh yeah.
And they're salted peanuts. I'm not going to get unsalted. I can buy unsalted peanuts, but you can't get the snack packs unsalted. And I was down in those like crazy simply because of the fact that with not eating as much as I normally eat to get the balance that I need, I had to get salt. So I literally had to eat salted peanuts to get the protein and the sodium from that, because of the amount of the times I was going to the bathroom, because of how much water I was drinking. Sure. And it's amazing that I was down and out I was probably sick for a couple weeks and didn't know it, but I was literally down and out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that was it. And I do attribute a lot of that to my lifestyle and balancing my food. And you want a low sodium tip? Eat real food. I've said it a million times. I learned a long time ago, outside of your calibration period. So when you decide you want to be healthier.
Yeah.
And I don't like saying healthy because there's no pure definition of healthy. It's very cliche. But to be healthier and be aware, there's so many more factors that go into it than just eating less sugar, eating less sodium, eating less fat, eating out less. I eat out as much as I want. That hasn't changed. But even when I eat out, I do my best to pick real foods.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather have a burger where the most processed thing on my plate is the bun. Yep. Things of that nature. So once I made it through that calibration period, and by that calibration period, I meant we were testing my blood on a regular basis in the very beginning because of the nature and severity of my disease. We were doing, every week, I think we were testing my blood, and then every month, and then every quarter, as I got healthier. So as time passed, it and my diet passed and everything balanced out a little bit more. Literally the only trick I had was eating real food. So I don't add salt to my recipes. I don't add salt to my plate. It purely is any kind of flavor that I try and I get through my food. And that is what has afforded me the luxuries that I have to this day, and what has put me at such a boring level on paper is because the choices I make aren't, I'm not going to have ice cream or I'm not going to have this. I pay attention to what I eat. I know why I'm eating it. And if I want to have a bowl of ice cream, I have a bowl of ice cream. I just choose a better option of ice cream that's less processed with better ingredients. I pay attention to the label and I read it so I can still have the things that I want to have without, because if you you're going to set yourself up for failure if all you do is, I can't have this, I can't have that, I can't.
Your mind won't allow that.
Eventually you're going to say, screw you, I can't stand it, and I'm going to eat an entire pizza all by myself.
And it's like, anytime that you've ever counted calories and you have an app and you're like, I'm not going to include these 5 Oreos.
Right.
Just because I'm
going to say I ate 1 serving when it was really half a bag of potato chips.
Right. Of course, and Gary, welcome in. Hopefully everything's going well over in Singapore. Yep, new style. See, you don't tune in for a couple of days, see what happens. Look at that. And of course, we always just want to give a quick shout out to our good friends over at Reeses Barkery, who are financially supporting Living Low Sodium here at 216 The Net. www.reesesbarkery.com, or give them a call at 815-363-7297. Reese's loves 216 The Net, real life internet radio, as well as healthy pets. They've got real food, as we've been talking about here, for your pets. And let's be honest, most people take better care of their pets than they take care of themselves. So visit Reese's Barkery, which is great. Now, when we take a look at what is healthy, and we take a look at low sodium, how do you know when you're healthy? Can I ask that? I mean, because it's one thing to say be healthy, but how do you know when or if you are?
I felt it. And I'm nuts. I'm crazy. No, I don't expect anybody to be like me. I'm a unique, warped individual, and I tend to go all or nothing. Yeah. So when I got sick, the lady that shared the hospital room with me is no longer with us. And we were given the same instructions. And it astounds me. I'm guilty of not taking care of myself. And had I done preventative medicine, maybe I would have known that I was the kind of person genetically who was susceptible to liver disease.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and here I am. So you live and you learn and you move on. And the immediate changes I made, I went full bore. I got rid of everything that was too high in sodium for me to eat. Outside of the things that were my husband's, his hot sauces, whatever that is his that he normally eats, because it's not like everybody eats the same exact thing.
Right.
And I did an elimination diet. I lived on potatoes, plain, boiled, mashed, whatever, baked, plain potatoes, and chicken and peas for probably 6 weeks.
Wow.
Water, no coffee, no tea, no nothing. Literally the only fluid that was allowed in my body was water. Mm-hmm. I was on 15 different medications, water, pills, vitamins, all of this other stuff. And as I started adding foods back in, the things that I discovered are completely astounding to me. I was shocked every day on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. I learned that I was sensitive to nightshades. I love tomatoes and potatoes. I am a self-proclaimed potato slut. I will eat potatoes in any shape or form, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, mashed, fried, tater tots. I don't care what it is. Potatoes are my jam. They are a nightshade. So in addition to the amount of potatoes that I eat, I also love tomatoes and zucchinis. I grow them in my garden. So I will have, tomatoes sliced up with my eggs in the morning for breakfast, and zucchini grilled with my lunch, and potatoes for both lunch and dinner. And I discovered I was overdoing it on nightshades. And on top of that, things like tomato and zucchini are high in histamine. So as someone who has allergies, just click platinum and say, save my preferences. It's a global cookie preference.
Gotcha.
To save, for me, as someone who has mild allergies, to discover that if I eat too many tomatoes in a day, come that night, I'm going to be itching my eyes. I'm going to be sneezing during the season in the summertime because of that, because I've loaded my body internally with those things. So I learned so much more about how it felt to be healthy than just purely reducing the swelling and the issues with my liver.
Yeah.
So the answer to that is everybody will feel it. And the only reason you tend not to is because you're not committed.
Right.
So when people say, oh, well, I cut back on sodium, I cut back on this, I cut back on that. But did you? Like, you still sneaking the potato chips? You still, like, are you genuinely
eating those McDonald's French
Right.
fries and saying it's a vegetable?
Right. Like, so I posted a few weeks ago about Wendy's and the amount of ingredients in their French fries. You look at Five Guys or any other place that just cuts potatoes, other than the warning that they fry them in peanut oil, it's potatoes, oil, and salt. And that's it.
That's it.
And it's like 60 milligram, if you have the salted ones, it's still only like 230 milligrams. Whereas Wendy's are like 410 milligrams of sodium with a whole host of other things that you're eating for a small French fry.
Yeah.
Like, it should just be potatoes. Why can't, like, man, I love potatoes. Why do you got to ruin the potatoes?
Just a potato. And of course, if you want a great living low sodium tip, visit mylowsolifestyle.com. Like, follow, and there's great recipes. We're on the recipe piece on the page that we're showing on social media right now. But there's main dishes, soups, salad dressings, vinaigrettes, dips, appetizers, sides, you name it. You have put together great tips on how to live low sodium and how it all works together.
And I still have to add more of my episodes, but the whole first season, the first year, I think, is on my website. And then, of course, YouTube and all the other places you can find the show.
Yep.
So and that's what's so funny is I thought about it when we started this show. Like, do we call it living low sodium or do we call it my low so lifestyle? Because it's not just about being low sodium. In any disease that you have or deficiency or whatever it may be, it's never just about that one thing.
Yeah.
The ability for your body to heal and recover when it's balanced is insane. It is absolutely insane. The things that they haven't even touched on how to understand cellular memory and cellular structure and why one person's T cells create the knowledge and the resistance to every single coronavirus species across the spectrum and are somehow not getting COVID because when they were 10, their immune system did something wonky from a cold that they had, that their T cells did what they did and mine didn't, or Pete's didn't, or somebody else. What they're touching on is even not even close to what we should know years down the road.
Yeah.
And how food affects that is also significantly under researched.
Well, and here's since tuning into your show on a weekly basis and following your website, all that good stuff. The interesting thing is, if you start listening to what your body's telling you,
correct.
And I don't just mean cramps or diarrhea because I'm allergic to milk or whatever, right? I mean, those are the things that scream at us. We go, ooh, right?
Shouldn't do that.
But it's interesting because I started listening to, like, oh my gosh, when I drink tequila straight, I tend to sweat a lot. That's my body saying, hey, we don't like something here, right?
Right.
But at the same time, if I drink just a straight beer, my knees tend to ache. And so there's some swelling and stuff. So it's been very interesting. And I'm just using alcohol because those are the first things on my mind. As I eat things, I start listening like, oh my gosh, I woke up, I couldn't move right. What did I eat yesterday?
And that's what's so funny is I've said it a million times. You don't realize how bad you feel until you feel better.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that is, it's a mixed blessing, to be honest with you. I am so unbelievably hypersensitive to my body at this point.
Right.
Even something as simple as the change in my vision. I had never been so happy to have a doctor tell me, you're just getting old. So, she says, I didn't expect that response. I literally was like grinning ear to ear. She says, I don't understand why you're so happy. I said, I don't get that kind of news. I get organ failure and tests and holes in your spine. And I was expecting you to say something along the lines of nerve damage or neuromyelitis optica, or like you're going to be blind in your left eye in a year. Like, it is the most, like, the absolute first possible grade of vision loss when you start to go and need, old lady readers or old man readers.
Oh, yeah.
The first possible one that you can, like the lowest possible prescription that you can get your hands on, is what is going on with my left eye. And I am so sensitive to the changes in my body and the nerves and everything and how it feels, that I noticed immediately, and it started causing pressure issues and cluster headaches that I had to go to my eye doctor. And I'm expecting her to literally tell me that something combined with all my other diseases is now going to cause me to go blind and all this other crap. And I'm just getting old. It's just a natural part of aging. I am so happy to accept getting old. I will age gracefully and be happy about it. And you talk about caloric counting, and I hate it. I despise it because it doesn't give you any information whatsoever. It just doesn't. Yeah. Now, granted, you can't go out and eat 10,000 calories. I mean, it still is the basics of energy in, energy out.
Right.
So you can still get fat eating salads and apples if all you're doing is sitting there.
Sure. I mean, take a cow, for instance. They're not galloping.
Right.
They're not galloping like a horse through the field. They're eating grass and just standing.
Yep.
They tend to gain a lot of weight.
And so the best tip that I can always give people is to be present in your health, and be aware of what you're consuming, why you're consuming it. And you have the ability to make the choices. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that you can't have something. And I mean, in some cases, it absolutely does. Like, I'm sorry, it just does. If you're diabetic or like me with an inflammatory disease and a liver issue, there are, like corned beef. Yes, there is a method that I can make corned beef, and it's a process, and I can make it low enough for me to have some and enjoy it. And I have. That being said, it's not going to be an everyday diet for me. That is one of my favorite foods. If I could have boiled dinner every day, I'm Irish. Like, I would eat corned beef and cabbage once a week if you let me, but it's not in my cards. Right. So it doesn't mean that I'm not happy and healthy in my diet and in my life with the choices that I make, and still get to have the dinners out with my friends and the splurges that I want to have. But that's all due to the fact that I pay attention to the balance elsewhere, because when you do go on that splurge, your body just eliminates everything you don't need. Yeah. But when you're just taking vitamins for the sake of taking vitamins, that taxes all of your internal organs to filter out. Why do you think a vitamin C pill is 600 milligrams when you only need 60? Because of the fact that it's not a balanced piece of fruit with glucose, fructose, fibers, sugars, proteins, antioxidants, all of these things that your body has evolved to process. It is now trying to pull out the vitamin C from that tablet, and that means your kidney and your liver and your organs got to filter out the rest of that garbage. And if you're not balanced, it will store it because it doesn't know what to do. It's like spinning somebody around 16 times and then tell them which direction's north.
Right.
Well, I'm just going to stand here and do nothing, and I'm going to hold everything until I can figure it out. Yeah. And that's what your body does. It literally just starts holding everything, and calcium deposits and iron deposits and sugar and fat and all of these things that float around in your body until you get balanced enough for it to figure out what the hell to do. Yeah. So.
And life is fickle, right? I mean, you can be quote unquote healthy.
Right.
And we've seen it. And when your card is pulled, or if it's in your cards to get cancer or whatever, and you go, wait, this isn't fair. Well, life isn't fair. It's just the way it is sometimes. But the truth of the matter is you shouldn't try not to be healthy because of that. You really truly enjoy your life. Since Dawn and I started holding each other accountable, I've stopped eating potato chips and the processed cookies and things like that. And now I I could get home and literally eat a family-sized bag of Lay's potato chip before I sat down at the dinner table.
Me too. And I still I do succumb to the potato chips, but I have low sodium plain Lay's. It's just potatoes with a little hint of salt. That's it. I don't do any of the flavored or anything because I want the potato chips. I know I'm going to eat them. So instead of having the ones that are loaded with garbage and flavors and seasonings and all this other crap, it's just potatoes and oil and salt. Yeah.
And so the funny thing is, though, I start paying attention to my brain going, I've already had like a half a bag. Why do I want to eat more?
Right.
I'm not even really hungry. What is it that's so I think being healthy is just being present and alert as well to go,
why? Right.
Why am I eating this entire pan of brownies? Where after one piece or two pieces or a row or two, you're like, I should be okay.
And it's funny because my husband and I have talked about it at great length about, especially, today talking about health and wellness and all this other stuff. When people talk about weight and this fat shaming, knowing or being beautiful or being stable or mentally healthy or physically healthy is completely different than being overweight. So there's this weird thing going on in society right now with this whole fat shaming that is kind of mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Because it almost seems as a species, especially when we're young and we're testing waters, we are inherently a mean people.
Oy.
And until you start experiencing things and getting through life and you go, holy crap, I was kind of an asshole as a teenager. You can't go back and undo it.
Right.
But hopefully you can influence other people to be nicer. Because you talk about fat shaming, you shouldn't shame anity for their weight, their race, their religion, their sexual preference. None of it. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't. And so it's not about, saying that you shouldn't be that weight because you're fat and ugly. No, if you're fat and ugly, that's because you're an asshole and you're freaking ugly.
Right.
The beauty from within is a very true statement. You can be fat and not physically appealing and still be the most wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody will marry you and love you the rest of your life because of that. So making it okay because they want to stop the fat shaming. So making it okay to be morbidly obese is problematic. The levels, and you might feel healthy and be boring on paper like I am in your 20s or early 30s and still carrying an extra 100 pounds of weight. And you probably still are very beautiful. But people telling you that it's okay to be that heavy or even being super skinny on the other end of the spectrum is just as bad. I spent most of my teenage years fighting to gain weight because my metabolism wouldn't let me and I was unhealthy because of it.
Well, but understand too what the world gives you, right?
Garbage.
The world gives you my 6,000 pound life on TLC, right? Or whatever it is. And we trek these people who are,
that's beyond morbidly obese.
Yeah. And the reason that show lives on is because me being obese, I go, well, I ain't that bad.
Right.
So my life ain't that bad. While I'm watching it eating a box of Twinkies.
Right. And I'm not saying that we're not all guilty of it. We all are. Right. We're all human. We're all infallible. We all have our faults and we all have room for improvement and growth. But realizing, and when you genuinely, and that's why when people ask me if, to help them, and I say, no, you don't want my help because I'm an asshole. I care,
Right.
but I don't care.
Right.
So when you call me up and say, oh, don't be mad at me, I went out and had this for dinner, I don't give a shit.
Right.
I spend enough mental hours in my day making sure that I am balanced so that I can be the healthiest version of me that I can. You made the choice. So when I make a choice to splurge and go out to dinner with friends and eat something that I shouldn't eat or do something, or the other day I overdid it. Like on the cusp of healing from COVID, I had an event. I had to work. I had an event, and then I went home. I had things that I had to do, and then I had a conference call, and then I had another event, and I didn't get home until 10 o'clock. And I felt hungover the next day. I don't drink. I can't, even if I wanted to. So purely the physical exertion, the mental exertion, and the fact that I didn't drink enough water that day. I ate fine. I did everything else fine. But simply something as little as not drinking enough water in the day, I physically felt like I went out drinking until 4 o'clock in the morning all day the next day.
Yeah.
And being aware of your health.
Yeah.
So and that's what's amazing, is once you start getting healthier and you start being aware of how things affect your body, it's fantastic. Because I never, in being, having as severe conditions as I have, and like you said, what's being healthy? When the amount of questions that I got with the amount of effort that I put into being healthy because of my liver.
Yeah.
And then here comes my immune system and decides to eat a hole in my spine. That's just life. No matter sometimes, and like you said, there's sometimes no matter what you do and how good you are, things happen. They just happen. Yeah. My husband got hit by a truck. It was purely an accident. Black ice, bad weather, both cars doing what they're supposed to do, not doing anything wrong, wearing their seatbelts, changed our life in a split second. God willing, he's still with us. I'm still here, and we move forward.
That's right.
So you make those choices, and the lack of importance on health, especially in a time with a global pandemic, just boggles my mind. Something so simple is the fact that they just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not discussed. It's all about vaccines and who's not vaccinated, who's vaccinated. None of the discussions are about just health. What it would mean to, make sure that your vitamin levels are balanced. You're taking vitamin D if you need it. If you don't want to eat vegetables and fruits, then maybe you should be taking a multivitamin. Yeah. The fact that that's not discussed, it's not even talked about. It's not even brought up.
Right. Well, and now Alice and I are in the midst of a move.
Right.
You went through that, a year ago or so, and we're right to the back end of it, and we are eating every horrible thing.
Yep.
Boxed, whatever,
yep.
Just so we don't have to move it.
Right.
I mean, we're not overeating, but hey,
right.
Hey, what are we? Well, we're going to have.
There's Twinkies in there. We might as well get rid of those.
Get rid of those. Don't want to move them. Got this hamburger helper getting rid of. Don't want to move that.
The fact of I've been going 20 million miles an hour all day long. I don't want to cook anything.
Yeah.
What's in there? SpaghettiOs. All right, let's put some of that on a plate.
Right. Or hey, Lucy, who's 12, your turn to make dinner. We don't feel like making it because we're boxing everything up, and it is whatever the 12-year-old decides to make at that point.
Potato chips, macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Right. And a chili on top.
I don't even think we have meat to put in it anymore. Know, it's just and so at that same time, then you watch your attitude. You'll say, "Well, I'm tired." Well, maybe not. Maybe you're not healthy at this point.
Right.
Mentally, physically, and in the way you've eaten. Right.
It does. It's so.
Thanks, Gary. I'm eating popcorn right now.
Oh, see. I love popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
With all my Dax spices, the Dax Red Mountain Rub, it's like a barbecue with a little bit of sweet and a little bit of heat on some, oh my gosh, so good. So last night, Ben and I are talking about this. I never thought in a million years as an adult, the thing I would be freaking out about is the status of my freezer. Because we haven't bought a generator yet. Oof. And last night as the wind is whipping and we're hearing about tornadoes in Southern Illinois, hope everybody's okay. I know that kind of wrecked a couple towns. Yeah. But we're both sitting there every time the wind blew over something on our deck, like, oh, we're looking at the lights going, is it going to flicker? Is it going to flicker? Because as you know, or if you watch the show, I run a group called Fresh from the Farm, McHenry County. Yeah. In an effort to help people find fresh produce and meat products from the farmers here local in McHenry County. I have an entire stand-up freezer full of a year's worth of beef, pork, elk, and bison and poultry. So like any night, when I go to the grocery store, it's because like, I ran out of onions. I literally have to go to the grocery store and grab an onion and maybe some coffee creamer. That's our vice in our house is coffee creamer. We go through it like nothing. It's ridiculous how bad we go through it. But any given day, I can't remember the last time I bought protein because it's in my freezer. Right. So when a storm hits and I'm going, holy crap, there's a lot of money in my freezer right now. I never in a million years thought that my focus would be on the food in my basement because of how healthy it is.
And listen to me, go get one. We love poultry and fish and pork, all that good stuff, turkey, and we had a freezer full of it, and we sent Lucy down to get something, and the door bounced back open on the freezer, didn't seal, and we lost everything. And we just, we're looking at it. I would
be devastated.
So some of the chicken was still good, but you can't refreeze it. So we were up till like 3 a.m. one day. We were barbecuing chicken,
crock pots going, everything.
Now I think we've finally gotten through that. It was a few months back, but but it was like, hey, what do we have? It looks like we're having pulled chicken again,
right? And we've been there before too. So, thankfully, I mean, when we've had it happen to us, it wasn't where we lost. Like the amount that we have in our freezer right now is insane. And bison is absolutely wonderful to eat.
It is. It's lean. It's delicious.
It's so good. So it's funny though, because you talk about healthy and they're slowly starting to see the difference in health and nutrient levels in mass-produced proteins on giant farms with, millions of chickens in dark tunnels and that versus ones that are free range and treated good and all this other stuff. Not to mention the flavor alone. When my husband and it was funny because I made something like hamburger helper or sloppy joes or something with the ground beef we got from the cow we bought. And we'd had the burgers, we had steaks, we had all these things, but making it as a mix in a bunch of other stuff. And we're both kind of sitting there like, what is that flavor? Like, it's not bad.
Right.
It's just, we can't, like, what did I do different? Did I sear it differently? Did I add more of this season or that season? And all it was the flavor coming out of the beef that you've never recognized before because it's never been good enough to actually, come out in a mixed dish like a sloppy joe or a hamburger helper where you have other overpowering flavors. So the health benefits alone, and to be able to control what you're putting in your meals, the lean quality of it and all that stuff is astounding. So I'd be devastated if I lost my freezer. So we will have more low sodium tips next weekend on Living Low Sodium. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube. And our websites. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels, 216thenet.com and My Low So Lifestyle. The more subscribers we have, the more luxuries we have. And we will be back next week.
Yeah, go out to mylowsolifestyle.com. Check out the recipes there. If you have questions, feel free to send them in to us. If there's a topic you want us to cover, we'll do that as well. And maybe down the road, you'll be doing some live demos on some cooking.
We've talked about it, and we also have some restaurant owners coming in the near future to do a special show about living low sodium and living healthy, eating out. So I've got some restaurant owners and some chefs coming in. It's going to be fun.
All right, everybody. Enjoy your Saturday. Come back tomorrow for Lisa's Changing Perceptions, then the Fellowship of Faith Worship Hour, followed by Metaphysical Meanderings. Another great weekend right here, 21.6 The Net. If not, stick around because there's a lot of good things happening all day, all night. Enjoy the day.